Hello and welcome back to the channel. I'm Tim and today I'm starting a playthrough of Normandy 44. Game designed by Mark Simonich, or Simonich, not sure the correct pronunciation of his name there. Before we get started, just a little bit of my history with this game. I originally purchased this back in it was either 2010 or 2011, right after the first printing came out. I tinkered around with it a little bit. Never got to play a full game of it or anything. And it sat on the shelf for many years. I did keep up with various updates to the game. Some of the replacement counters that came out in C3I I was able to get a hold of, and a few errata counters that I guess they never actually published, but provided images for, and I had made some homemade versions of those. We never really managed to get it to the table again, and then just recently, in fact, just after the GMT sale, this wasn't available in the GMT sale. Otherwise, I probably would have picked it up there. But I saw a Facebook Marketplace posting for someone selling it. I think he goes by the Weekend Warrior, selling the new fourth printing and the mounted map with the 3-inch box for it for a really good price. So I contacted him about it and was able to get it from him. And so I got this in. It actually came before my GMT sale stuff. I'm still waiting on that. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to finally getting to play this for real, even though it will be solo, but I think we'll still be able to have a good time with it. Just playing both sides to the best of my ability, and that split personality mentality that you have to have when playing these war games solo. Yeah, I'm not going to dig into a bunch of rules here before we start. I'll just kind of go over things as we play. So with that, let's go ahead and get going. Get the camera turned down here. So the first thing to do in this game is a special invasion turn, which involves rolling to see how well your airborne landings did, and then also resolving the initial beach landings. So we're going to start off with that by rolling for scatter for all of our airborne units. And we'll start over here with the 82nd Airborne. Actually spent a little bit of time at Fort Bragg in my younger days. Went to airborne school there. I ended up being assigned to the 1st Cav Division, so I wasn't actually part of an airborne unit, but I did have a good time there at airborne school. I actually went as an ROTC cadet. So as you can imagine, we got picked on a little bit. Not as much as the officers that were there, though. Okay, so let's go ahead and get going with this. So we'll start with the, who's at the 507th Parachute Infantry Regiment. So we're going to be rolling on this, as soon as I can find it. Where is the scatter table? Okay, I guess it's not on the player aid card. It's just here on the map itself. Oh, it is also on the back of the rule book, I guess. So either one. So we're resolving the 82nd, so we're going to use this column here. So anything other than a 6 is going to have some sort of negative effect on the unit. S means they get scattered, so they get a scattered marker placed on them. One of these. And that has some various effects, one of which is they can't form Zoc bonds, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. And I think it restricts them a few other ways. S1 means of course, all of these mean they get scattered. The 1 means they lose one step, but then they get one replacement recorded on the general records track. And then a 2 means they lose 2 steps, but they still only get one replacement, so the other is permanently lost. All right, so let's start here with, like I said, the 507th. If I can get my dice tower over here somewhere close by without disrupting things too much. That's what we want to see right there, is that 6. Okay, we got a 5, which is going to be just a scatter result. I did, some of you may have seen the little short that I posted. I recently got a corner clipper, and I did get all of these clipped. They look very nice. Okay, so that's on them. Let's get this back just a little bit more, get them in the shot. There we go. All right, next we'll go to the 508. A 3, going to be an S1 result. So they will lose a step. And become scattered. Now is probably a good time to talk about this. So these are any of these units that have this thin stripe on the back instead of a, let's find a 2-step unit here somewhere. Yeah, so here's an example of a 2-step unit. See how it's got a thicker light colored stripe on the back. These are 3-step units, the ones with the thin stripe. And so the way those work is once they lose their 2nd step, we have this cadre display over here with all of the cadre units. And they're just kind of generic, either infantry or airborne 1-step units that represent their 3rd step. And then part of the losing condition is if you accumulate too many of these losses that require you to use the cadres, then you can cause an auto win condition for the Germans. All right, so that's that one taken care of, although we do need to record that airborne replacement. So this is the general records track. It's used for keeping track of different things, such as replacements, mostly for that, for all the different nationalities and troop types. It's also used to keep track of supply points. I believe that's the correct term. There's supply points, and there's replacement points, and there's reinforcement points. 3 different kind of points you got to keep track of. So these are tracking the supply points for the German 7th Army and the Fortress Cherbourg, or Cherbourg. Those are used, you spend those to get artillery shifts in combat, and then there's also one here for the U.S. 1st Army and the British 2nd Army. So we've got our 1 airborne replacement recorded there. Now we're going to roll for the 505th. And they get a 2, which is going to be, for the 82nd, is an S2. So they're actually going to go over here, take this first cadre unit and put them in its place so we know. And these are labeled. You see it has a little A in the top, and then this box is for A. So we'll know if this gains a step, we'll know to put this one back out there. and they are going to become scattered. Okay, then we'll go over to the 101st Airborne, which I also spent some time at Fort Campbell. I went to Air Assault School there also while I was an ROTC cadet. Okay, at that time though, by then the 101st wasn't actually an airborne unit anymore. It's an air assault unit. At least then it was. Not sure what they are today. All right, anyway, let's roll for them. We'll start with the 502nd. 4. Now these use a different table here. I'll show you the one in the back of the rule book. We're using this column here, so they have a little bit better chance of getting safe landings on a 5 or a 6, no scatter. We got a 4. That's going to be just a scatter result for them. Okay, then the 506th. Numbers are really tiny. Let's see what they get. A 1. That's not going to be good. That's an S2. It will come off over here to the cadre display. Replaced with an airborne cadre. And scattered. Okay, and then the 501st. Six, there we go. Finally got one with no scatter. All right, then we'll move over here to the, and just to note, the 82nd Airborne have a glider regiment that's going to be entering on turn 2. And the 101st actually has one of their regiments that's going to be landing on the beach here at Utah with the 4th Infantry Division. Okay, now let's go over to the British sector. Speaking of which, here it is. There's this Army boundary line that runs down through the middle of the board here, down to here. Once you get past this point, it doesn't matter. But U.S. units have to operate on this side of that line. They're allowed to move and attack one space across the line, but that's it. And then same thing for the Commonwealth troops going the other direction. All right, so we have the 6th Parachute Division. Not sure what the actual official term for that is, but it's the 6th Division for the British. So we'll start with the 3 minus unit here. And again, these have yet another column to use, and they will actually have no scatter on a 4, 5, or 6. Let's see how they do. 6, perfect. Next will be the 5th. What are these brigades, I guess? Yeah, 5th Brigade. Ooh, a 1. That's not good. It's going to be an S1. And then we have a battalion here. 8th Battalion of the 3rd Brigade. Excuse me. Another one. Yikes. So another S1. Oh, and we forgot. Let's go catch up with our replacements that we've been forgetting to record. So the British have 2 airborne replacements. Right here. The Germans start off with 2 infantry replacements and 3 supply points for each of their armies there. All right, what else did we need for the Americans? That one didn't lose a step. That one did. That one did. Remember, even though this one lost 2, we still only get 1. So we should have 2. That one didn't lose 1. That one lost 2, but we only get 1 for it. So it should be at 3 replacement points for the U.S. Airborne. Okay, that's it for the landings, the airborne landings. So next we need to go to the beach landings. Okay, so invasion combat. I should have mentioned too, there is another glider brigade over here for the British that's going to be arriving on turn 2 as well. And so let's start with the Utah Beach over here. So the way these work is we have these invasion tables that we're going to be rolling on, or this invasion CRT, and the DD tank table. So for the non-tank units, we do a die roll depending on which beach it is. We'll get one of these results, and in all cases the strong point that's defending the beach there will be destroyed, and then we'll either get an advance 1 or an advance 2, and potentially have to take some losses ourselves. Like the A2D1 means the strong points eliminated and we have to take 2 hits, and those hits have to be on infantry. They can't be on the tanks. The tanks roll on this separate table, and basically if you get a 1 to 3 you lose a step. If you get a 4 to 6 you don't. The one tricky one here is Bloody Omaha. If you roll a 1 for the invasion roll there, you take an A1, the strong point holds, and you have to roll again. And you basically keep doing that until you either succeed or all of your infantry has been eliminated, at which point they get turned back. All right, well, let's hope that doesn't happen. One thing I guess I should have mentioned too before we started, for turn 1 the weather is set. It's overcast 2, and we'll talk about what effects that has when we get into the actual turn 1 here. All right, so we're going to roll for Utah Beach here. And they get a 6, which is, for Utah, a D1 advance 2. So this is where they're coming in at here. The strong point is eliminated, and they get to advance 2. So the 1 is just moving into the hex itself where the strong point was. And then we can advance a second space. I think we'll go help these guys out here. So we'll move at least one of these infantry regiments into there. And then I think we'll, let's move the tanks into there as well. And then this guy down to here. All right, so this is a good time to talk about stacking. So the way stacking limits work in this game is each unit has a certain number of stacking points. And page 7. And you're allowed to have 4 stacking points in a hex plus any one silhouetted unit. So silhouetted unit means one that has like the picture of a tank on it or a picture of a flat gun on it. Anything that's not the usual NATO symbol. You can have one of those stacked for free with your stack, but otherwise it's 4 stacking points, and the stacking points are based on the unit's combat strength. So if it's a 1 or a 2 strength unit, it has a stacking point of 1. 3 or more, it's a stacking points of 2. So we have, so this one can stack for free, so that's a 2-point unit. And then this only has strength of 2, so that's a 1 point. So we're at 3 stacking points there. But we could not bring this other infantry regiment into there because then that would be 2, 4, 5 stacking points. So we'll do the advance that way. And we'll move over here. Now these are the follow-on units. These are going to land in once we get into the actual turn 1. This invasion turn is kind of like a turn 0 almost that you resolve before the normal turn 1. Okay, next we have Omaha. Oh, hold on. We forgot to roll for the tanks. Let's see if they lose a step. They do not. All right, now for Omaha. So we've got Charlie Dog, which is where the 29th Infantry Division is landing. So let's see what they get. A 2. Well, at least it wasn't a 1. So a 2 is going to be an A2D1 Advance 2. So the D1 means the strong points eliminated. But then we have to take 2 step losses. So we'll just flip over each of these. And we only get to advance 1. And then we'll roll for the tank. And they lose a step. Now you notice once these tanks lose a step, they have that light colored oval around them. That means they do not project a zone of control. Same thing, you see that white ring around the strong point units. So zone of control, most of you are probably familiar with that, basically means they exert a zone of control into all of the hexes surrounding them. And that does things like whenever a unit moves into a zone of control, they have to stop. And then when they go to leave that zone of control, it costs an extra movement point. The other thing that this game has, and most of the Mark Simonich 4X, they call them, or 19XX games, like France 40, North Africa 41, Salerno 43, etc. They use this term Sachbond, which basically means if you have two units that are at 1 hex apart that each exert a ZOC, zone of control, they form a bond that cannot be crossed other than very certain specific situations. So for example, there's a ZOC bond between these two units, so I can't move across that hex side. It can also be formed through an entire hex like this. So this is called a hex ZOC bond. This is a hex side ZOC bond. And I can't even move into that hex that has a ZOC bond running through it. There are some exceptions, like if there were a unit there and I pushed it out or destroyed it, I'd be able to advance into that hex. Same thing across a hex side. But other than that, pretty much no movement allowed through there. All right, moving on. We have our Easy Fox beaches, which are the 1st Infantry Division, Big Red 1, landing there. And we get a 4. So a 4 on Omaha is an A1, D1, Advance 1. So again, this is eliminated. We have to take 1 step loss this time. We don't get any freebie replacements for these. That's only for the Airborne, but those are also the only Airborne replacements we'll ever get. So, all right, and then we have to roll to see about the tanks, and they take a step loss. Okay. All right, moving into the British sector. We have Gold Beach. So now we're going to be on the All Others column of the Invasion CRT. A 4 is going to be an A1, D1, Advance 1. This is the jig beach that we're doing here. So they're going to have to take a loss. And only advance 1. Roll for the tanks. There we go. They don't have to take a step loss. Then we'll do King next. 4, another A1, D1, Advance 1. And roll for those tanks. Step loss. All right, moving on to Juno Beach, Mike sector. 6. All right, that's a D1 Advance 2. We can move into there. And then yeah, we'll be all right because we can move up to here. Because we have a ZOC bond here, so they won't be able to move in and block our beachhead there. Now, even though we advanced into a zone of control, you're still allowed to, as long as you entered the excuse me, as long as you entered the vacated hex where the defender was located, you're allowed to enter a zone of control and then continue your advance. One thing that's a little bit different with this game than some others is you don't necessarily have to advance into the vacated hex when you either eliminate the defender or force them to retreat. You're allowed, normally, the invasion CRT is special, but normally you're allowed a 2 hex advance, and it can be in any direction. You don't have to move into the vacated hex of the defender. But if you want to be able to do, advance from one ZOC to another ZOC, then you have to, I'm just finding here, 14.3. No unit can advance from one EZOC directly into another EZOC of the same enemy unit unless it is entering or has entered the defender's vacated hex. Furthermore, the attacker must stop upon entering any EZOC except when entering the defender's vacated hex. So yeah, that ZOC to ZOC move is legal because we entered the defender's hex. All right, let's move on then to Nan. Ooh, 1, that's not going to be good. For all others, a 1 is an A2D1. So we take 2. Defender is eliminated. Oops. And we actually have some Canadian infantry with us on this beach. The darker tan color there, or almost orangish color, I guess, is Canadians. And then let's see if the tanks have to take a hit. They do. Did we roll for these tanks? I don't think we did. We did not, so we'll use that for them. And then we'll roll for these. 4, they don't take a hit. Okay. Alrighty. Now let's go over to Sword Beach. 3 is going to be an A1D1 Advance 1. Let's see, these are, that becomes a 3-4, that becomes a 4-4. So we want a 6 and a 3, or a 5 and a 4. Oh, this guy's a +1 though. Probably want to keep him at the higher strength. So these little numbers next to the NATO symbol, come on, is their troop quality. So these have a +1 troop quality, and that can potentially provide a column shift in combat. So we want to keep him as strong as possible. All right, and then we'll roll to see if their tank loses a step. It does not. All right, that is all of the invasion beaches done. I believe that concludes the special invasion turn. Oh, we forgot about the Rangers. So Rangers at Point du Hoc over here. So it says if a 1 is rolled on the invasion combat, A2D1, the landing fails, the 2nd Battalion is eliminated, and the 5th Battalion must land at Omaha as part of the follow-up wave. Okay, so I think we roll for them separately. It's still considered Omaha Beach, though, I think. Yeah, let's see. Okay, yeah, so we're going to do a separate roll for them. That's my understanding of how this works. So we got a 2, so fortunately it wasn't a 1. So a 2 is going to be an A2D1 Advance 1. So or is this, hold on, this might be all others. Because it says if a 1 is rolled on invasion combat, which is A2D1. Well, if it's Omaha, it's not a 1. A 1 is an A1 star. So, yeah, I think that must be treated as the all others column. So we rolled a 2, which is actually an exchange result. So for an exchange, we each side loses a step. The unit that takes the step loss is determined by the opposing player. So the Germans would actually get to decide which of our Ranger battalions takes the step loss. Now, just to explain what's going to happen here next is if the 2nd Battalion is not eliminated, which is what would have happened if we got an A2D1 result, then the 5th Battalion would land at Omaha as part of its follow-up wave. If the 2nd Battalion is not eliminated, there's still a chance that the 5th Battalion misses the signal to reinforce, as happened historically, and will land at Omaha. Immediately after the 2nd Battalion lands, roll 1 die on a 1 to 3, place the 5th Battalion at point to Hawk. On all other results, it is diverted to the Omaha follow-up box. So I guess as the German player, who would I rather see that hit go on? Probably the 2nd Battalion, because there's a chance that they might be there by themselves. So this comes off. They land. But they don't have a zone of control, and I should have pointed out this earlier too with those cadre units. If their movement or their attack strength is in parentheses, it means they're not allowed to attack. They can only defend. All right, so they land there, but then we have to roll to see if the 5th misses the signal to reinforce and lands at Omaha instead with the follow-up wave. So that will happen on a 1 to 3. They go to point to Hawk. Anything else, they're diverted. So they get diverted with the follow-up wave. And I believe with these, so with the initial landings, we were prescribed which units land at each sector of the beach. But I think for the follow-up wave, we're free to land these, wherever we like. Although I have a feeling we're probably not going to be able to land them on the first turn because the Germans are going to come in here and pin us in, I think. All right. Now I think that concludes the invasion turn. So following that is the turn 1 for the German player. They have a few restrictions on the first turn. Restricted movement units and all OST units may not move at all on turn 1. So restricted movement units are the ones that have their movement value in a black box. such as these ones up here in Cherbourg. See how all their movement values are in a black box, that second number after the dash. There's also some over here. So they can't move at all on the first turn, and none of the OST units or OST units. So there's a few of those that don't have black boxes like this one, but they're not allowed to move on the first turn. Also, all units of the 21st Panzer Division have a movement allowance of 3. And that's these guys down here. So this one, here, these 2 units, they all only have a movement allowance of 3 for the first turn. And no strategic movement or truck movement can be used on turn 1. And we'll talk about what those are when we get to turn 2, when it's actually allowed. All right, that's going to be followed by the Allied player turn 1. They do a normal player turn, with the exception that our reinforcements are kind of pre-designated, so everything that's in the follow-up wave land as if they're reinforcements for the first turn. We'll see what that entails when we get to them. And then if stacking prohibits them from landing, which, like I said, is probably going to happen here at Omaha and possibly over here at Gold as well, and probably not at Sword. I don't know if they have anybody that can get in there to fill that gap. Then you can just wait until the following turn to land them, and they can wait longer if need be. And yeah, that's about it. So we'll get to the German turn here and figure out what they can do to try to keep these pesky allies from getting off their beaches. All right, before we get started on the German player turn 1, I did want to point out that during the turn 1 sequence of play, there is no initial phase, so we don't roll for the weather. It's just automatically overcast 2. Neither player receives supply points or replacement points. The Allied player does not receive air support, but does get naval support markers that can be used during the German and Allied player turns, but not during the special invasion phase, which is what we just finished. So we do have all of our air support on their used side. Each, the U.S. and the British or the Commonwealth each have 3 air support markers that can be used for either column shifts in combat or for strafing under certain conditions. We do have our 2 U.S. naval support markers and 2 British naval support markers available, though. Those, again, can be used for column shifts in combats, but only if they occur within the naval bombardment zone, which is this blue line that's going up through here. So it goes up to the coast up here and down through here. So as long as it's, and then it ends over here. So as long as it's a combat that's occurring within that area, we can use naval support for to support that. And the U.S. naval support can only support U.S. combats, and the British can only support Commonwealth combats. All right, so let's figure out where we want these German units to move. So because it's overcast 2, one effect that has on movement is the German mechanized units, instead of getting 1/3 movement point when moving along a major road, which are these thicker ones, they only get 1/2 movement point. So basically all units are going to get 1/2 movement point per hex when moving along either a major or a minor road. Also wanted to point out, while we're on the topic of movement, these bicycle units, which are the ones with the movement number in a white circle, during I think it's only overcast turns, they're allowed to increase their movement value to 6 if they move entirely along a road and never enter an enemy zone of control. All right, so we're going to want to... the other thing to keep in mind while we're doing this movement is when we get to the combat portion, this game, I think most of the games in this series have this idea of a main attack force, which is basically to encourage keeping your divisions together. So you'll notice each unit has most of the units have a divisional symbol up in the upper left-hand corner to denote which division they belong to. So by keeping those together, participating in the same attack, you're able to get better odds, because when you declare and we'll talk about this in more detail when we actually get to an attack, but basically units that belong to the same division will be able to attack with full strength. Others, with a couple of exceptions, will be attacking at half strength. So you're encouraged to keep your divisions together for attacks. All right, so with that in mind, I think we're going to want to try to get these guys to kind of concentrate down on some of these airborne units here. Another thing to consider is we have an HQ unit underneath here, which is able to provide artillery support up to 5 hexes away. Now, a restriction on these is they have a movement value of 5. So theoretically, we could move them 10 hexes if we move them along a road. However, if they move more than 1 hex, you have to flip them to their moved side. And if you do that, they're not able to provide artillery support that turn. But you'll see if we move them just 1 hex to here, they're still within 5 hexes of this unit, so they could provide an artillery shift for an attack on that unit there. So I think we'll do that for sure. Just kind of cock them a little to show that they've moved already. Let's see, we could bring... Now these guys, even though they're scattered, they do still project a zone of control. So we couldn't, for example, move this unit. He could go, that would be 1 movement point, 1.5. But now we can't move him into there, because that would be, once he moves into this unit's zone of control, he has to stop. I think we'll move him there. We also want to try to form, some Zoc bonds through here to try to hem them in as well. So let's see. Let's get these units up further north here. Move down. Let's see where they can get to. So we're probably going to want to move this guy up, right up next to somebody, so we won't be able to use his bicycle movement, but he can still go. Let's see, this would be 1, 2. We can move him into there, or bring him around this way up into here. Now see, if we move him into here, You can also create ZOC bonds with the coast. So because this hex side runs into the coast there, that creates a ZOC bond along there. So that would keep anyone from slipping up through here. Yeah, let's do that, because then we can move this guy into here. And that would create a ZOC bond there. I think we'll then move this guy along the same route, so he should be able to go 1, 2, 3.5 into there. Have this one go 1, 2 to there. This one could... See, the thing here is if he joins in this attack, he will be halved because he's going to be attacking across a flooded hex side. I think we'll probably want to bring this guy up into here to help attack that unit. And then we have this one. He's going to have to use a full movement point to get out. Oh no, he was here. I just moved him out of the way. That's right. So he can go potentially, let's see, 1, 2. If we send him down that way, he's not getting very far. Trying to see if we can get him around up this way, but he doesn't have enough movement for that. So that's only 3 stacking points so far. So I could bring him in 1, 2, 3 to this stack as well. Let's see what we can do about the area down here. We do have some bicycle units way down here by Coutances. I'm going to butcher all these names, I know, but let's see, where could he get to? 1, 2, 3, 4. He could get up to there, but then he can't. If he uses his extra movement, he can't enter a ZOC. This guy, 1, 2, 3. He can't really get close enough to help, but he could help hem stuff in a little bit. Or 1, 2, 3. Yeah, we could get a pretty decent attack against that unit there, it looks like. If we move, well, all those can't, yeah, 1, 2, yeah, those can all stack together. We can move this guy into here and this guy into here. This one we probably just move up to there, I think, to, or do we send him into the flooded hex? Yeah, that would create a ZOC bond there to prevent that unit from going into there. Yeah, moving into flooded hexes, MP cost for non-mechanized units is 2, and you have to stop. So that's fine, he can get into there. This unit can't move because it's an OST unit. We need to figure out what to do with this guy. I think if we just move him into there, that creates Zoc bonds through there. This unit can't attack because he's scattered, so we don't have to worry about that. That would be nice to have him in on that attack there. Since he's a silhouetted unit, he can freely stack. We can freely stack one silhouetted unit in that hex. Make sure what I'm pointing at is actually on the camera. Talking about moving this guy possibly into here instead to get that armor shift. Then we need something to kind of come into here. Well, we know these guys can't move or attack this turn, so kind of safe there. And we got flooded hexes here that's going to stop anyone moving through there. They can't even move into here because of the Zoc bond. So yeah, let's actually move him up into this stack to help with that attack. We'll try to get some of these bicycle units up to help cover this southern edge here. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5. Yeah, I think that'll work. We do have this one armor unit up here too that can come down. Let's see where he could get to. 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5. He could make it down to where that headquarters is at least. Or do we want to send him down through here? 1, 2, 4, 5. He could get to Valone. Yeah, let's send him down this way, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, I think that's everybody over there on the peninsula. Let's see what we can do to trap these guys on Omaha. So again, this unit, because of this hex side, goes to the coast. That's forming a Zoc bond there, so these guys can't move that way. We need to try to kill that Ranger battalion there. So I think we move this guy into here. Now this guy can't attack. His attack value or combat strength is in parentheses, so he's only for defense. It's basically an anti-tank unit. The armor rating, which is that middle number there, in a red box, means that that can cancel a potential armor shift if that number is higher than the armor rating of the tank that's attacking. All right, so we probably want to get him over here with this guy then for when these guys try to bust out. They won't get an armor shift at least. Let's see, we're going to need to use some of these guys, I think, to hem them in on the other side. Yeah, if we can get into here, that's going to form a Zachmon there, so they'll be trapped on the beach and can't move out. They'll have to fight their way out. So we'll move this guy into here. So actually, what we may want to do, this one started here, right? Because we have this other anti-tank unit here that could get into this hex pretty well. Let's see. 1, 2. Yeah, I guess he can get into either one. I guess this is fine. Move him over 1, 2 and a half, 3.5. So he'll be there to stop their armor shift. This guy can't move. This one we did move. Okay. And let's see. I need to try to pin these British and Canadians in as well. I have another bicycle unit here. So same thing. This goes to the coast here, so that would form a Zachbond. We get him into here. And then we'd have one across here, and we have one there, so that would hem them in. And then again, to try to cancel the tank shift, we have this guy. He only has 3 movement points though, remember, because he's part of 21st Panzer. So, but 1, yeah, he could get into there for sure. 1, 2, yeah, he could get into either one. Thinking we'll probably need the extra strength over here. Let's move him into there. This guy can go 1, 2. Probably don't want to leave too big of a gap here because we probably are going to get pushed back some, so maybe we move. That guy's got +1 troop quality. We want to get him up there. Maybe we'll use one of these to kind of cover. We'll use the bicycles to cover Bayou. And then this guy, let's see, let's check our stacking here. That's 1, 2, 3. But he's a silhouetted, so we could still get that guy into that hex to help out there. But then we've also got, yeah, not much to cover here. These guys, again, are all limited to 3 movement points. I'm thinking this headquarters we have back here at St. Lo, we'll probably want to get him up here into Bayou, because he'll be able to cover both of these beaches then. There's Khan has artillery. As long as we control at least one of these hexes. There's artillery that we can use from here. So we're good over here, I think, for artillery support. Yeah, let's go ahead and move this guy. 2, 3, 4, 5, just enough to get there, and then he goes to his move side. So he can't support any attacks this turn, but he'll be positioned better there for the future. We do have this little unit down here. What do we want him to do? Well, he can't get very far. I guess we'll start heading him up toward Bayou. 1, 2, 3. All right, and all this over here. I guess let's figure out where these guys can get to first, and then we'll try to see what we can do to cut off Juno and Sword Beaches up there. All right, so 3 movement only for all of these guys. We do have this little security battalion here. Only has 4 movement. We just... or 2, so you can go 4 hexes on a road. We'll just start heading them up toward Khan, I guess. Yeah, so I want to try to get some stuff onto these airborne guys here. So I think these guys are all +1 too. Probably, let's see, this guy can go 1, 2, 3, so he can get up to there. 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3, so he could get like into here or up over to here. Probably send him this way. Maybe up here, actually. And this guy can go 1, 2, 3, so he can get in there. And then this one, I think we go... we put him in with this one. All right, so that just leaves these 2 still yet to move. This one can't move. These black box ones can't. This guy can. I guess we could move him into there. Now, if he moves into the swamp via the road, thinking that only costs 1, well, in this case, half a movement point. Oh, but he's going to enter his Zoc. I was wondering if we could get him down into here to form Zoc bonds along there, but it doesn't look like we can. Unless we go, can we go 1, 2, then it's 2 movement points to move into there. So that wouldn't work either. I probably want to keep him close to these guys. Now these guys, the way the black box ones work, they can't move on turn 1, but starting next turn, they can. See, where's that at? Somewhere under movement, I think. Page 9. The restricted movement units. Where does it talk about them? Yeah, here it is. So they're released if at the start of a German movement phase on turn 2 or later, an Allied unit is within 2 hexes of their location. So assuming these guys are still here on turn 2, they'll be released and then they can move. These guys won't be able to move though unless they decide to come over this way. So they're kind of stuck there for quite a while probably. Yeah, I don't know. If I move into here, it's just opening me up to him possibly attacking me there. I certainly won't want to do that attack, I don't think. So, yeah, I think I might just leave that one there. So let's figure out what to do with these two guys. We need to get some stuff into here. So if we go... Man... There's not 2 spaces we could go into here to form a Zoc bond all the way across to this guy. So we want to try to halt them on sword here. We could move this guy up into there. Or too much ground to cover here with too few units. This guy's not even going to get very far, to be honest. He's not going to even, I don't think he can even get to here. 1, 2 and a half. No, that'd be 3.5. Whoops. Where did this guy come from? 24, 27. Oh, he started there. Okay. Yeah, I mean, we're just going to have to put some little speed bumps in the road here, I guess. 1, 2 and a half. At least forms a Zoc bond there. If we put this guy up into here, that forms a Zoc bond there, Zoc bond there. I think that's about the best we can do. Unfortunately, going to have to let them kind of move in there. All right. Well, probably not the best strategy-wise there, but I think that'll do the trick for now. I definitely do not claim to be an expert on this sort of thing, so I'm not going to spend too much time mulling over it. All right, so that's their movement. Guess we should consult the sequence of play to see how this turn is supposed to go. So the German player turn starts with a replacement phase, but there is no replacements. Well, they haven't taken any hits yet, so they don't need to spend any replacements, obviously. They do have a couple to spend. And then the movement phase, any improved positions that have been started would get completed. Can start building IPs, but the Germans are not allowed to do that until turn 5. Basically, they had orders to push them back into the sea, so they're not allowed to just sit back and dig in until turn 5. This is when reinforcements would come in, but there are no turn 1 reinforcements. They're already on the board. We move all or some or none of the units, which we did. Units can be placed into reserve. Yeah, let's take a look at that. 15.1. From that phase, reserve marker. Multiple units. The unit may be placed in reserve if it does not move or only expends 1 movement point. The movement point may not be used to enter or exit an EZOC. A unit that starts the movement phase in an EZOC may be placed in reserve as long as it does not move. And I don't think there was any restriction on turn 1 for putting units in reserve. Strategic movement and truck movement not be used, but yeah. So we could potentially, we have quite a number. Was it 6 reserve? We can put up to 6 units in reserve. So, I mean, I guess for these ones that didn't move or moved very little, I guess there's no reason not to, right? For example, this guy could be replaced in reserve. I don't know that it's going to benefit him at all, but might as well do it, right? Just in case. This one did move. Okay, and I don't know that there's anybody else that only moved 1. I mean, obviously the units that couldn't move didn't move, but they're not going to be able to move in the reserve movement either. Okay, so there's that. Then if this is the allied player turn, he may then evacuate units, but it's not. Okay, so then we do combats. So I know we've got at least one that we want to do over here on these guys. And we also want to do an attack here on these guys. So let me check if there's anywhere else. I suppose we could get a somewhat decent attack there. Although, what's that? Is that bocage? Yeah. So, depending on the type of terrain the defender's in, they're going to get a defensive combat bonus. Bocage gives them 3. So that makes this guy actually a 7. We'd be able to get 7, and then he'd be at half, so 8. So it's only going to be a 1-to-1 attack. Troop quality, no, we're both +1s. 1-to-1. I mean, there's a 4 out of 6 chance that we lose a step. We only have, we don't have anybody in range to give us an artillery shift. No armor. So I don't know that that's would be a wise attack there. I guess that guy under there didn't move either. We could technically put a reserve marker on him. All right, well, we've completed all our movements. I think we can put these guys back on normal here. Yeah, so that one's questionable. What about here? We've got 5. He's a 4. He's also in bocage. So that would be less than 1-to-1. So I don't think we want to do that. All right, so it looks like here, and then the British Airborne over there is where we're going to do our attacks. So let's figure out what our odds are. So the first thing we have to do is declare what our MAF is, or the main attack force. And so the main attack force can consist of a formation. So you have your formation, which can be a division, a regiment, a brigade, or a battalion. And if 2 or more regiments, brigades, or battalions from the same division take part in the same combat, they all count as one formation. If 2 or more battalions from the same brigade or regiment take part in the same combat, they all count as one formation. Okay, so, and then you can have an attachment, so any one unit of any size can temporarily attach to a MAF by simply stacking with one of the units of the MAF. When attached, they may be considered part of the MAF and are counted at full strength instead of half strength. And then you also have the option of forming a battle group, which is any stack of units that totals 6 or less combat strength. So regardless of division affiliation or whatever, as long as you have a stack that's 6 or less combat strength, you can declare them as the main attack force. But you cannot attach a unit to that. It's just that one stack is the main attack force. All right, and then there's also a combat strength limit of maximum of 18 factors in combat on either attack or defense. Okay, so let's see. In this case, we're going to make the 91st Division the main attack force. And then, so all of them get to attack at full strength, except for this guy because he's attacking across a flooded hex side. Attacker is halved. Actually, even if it wasn't flooded, because that's a minor river there, without a bridge across it, he would be halved anyway. Okay, we will attach the 100th Panzer Battalion to the main attack force so that we can gain his armor shift. To get an armor shift, the unit has to be part of the main attack force, I believe. Modifiers, armor shift. Terrain permitting, the attacker gains a column shift to the right in the following 2 cases. He has an armored unit with a gray armor rating in the MAF, and the opposing side has no units with an armor rating. Or if both units have armor ratings involved, if the attacker's armored unit with a gray armor rating is higher than the best armor rating, either red or gray, in the defending stack, then you would get the shift. And Armor shift possible. So what kind of terrain is he in? He's in bocage. Bocage does allow armor shift. The things that don't are woods, cities, and flooded hexes, and attacking across a major river or a flooded hex side or a causeway. Does not permit an armor shift. Also, if you're attacking an improved position or a strong point, you can't get an armor shift against that. And if you're attacking across the Cherbourg perimeter, which is this gray line here, no armor shift allowed there either. But we will be able to get the armor shift as long as we make him part of the main attack force. So he'll be the attached unit. That means this one is not part of the main attack force, so they'll be attacking at half strength. So we have 2, 3, 4, 5, 9, and then half of his is 11. So we've got 11. He's got 4. So 11 to 4 is going to be, man, if we could have just gotten one more to make it 12, we would have been at 3 to 1. So as it is, we're only going to be at 2 to 1. Yeah, was there any way? I don't think there was any way to get this guy. Where did he come from? 3209. He came from here. I guess we could have sent him on this side so he wouldn't have been halved. You know what? Let's back some of this up here. This guy could have reached, he came from here, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He could have got into there, which means we could have sent this guy down this way. So now he's providing the Zoc bond here. That allows this guy to attack from the same side of the river. Yeah, let's do that instead. So that's going to be, so he's now at full strength. So that's 4, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13. So 13 to 4 is going to be 3 to 1. And then we need to look at shifts. So we do get the armor shift, as we saw. So that's going to make it 4 to 1. Get some little dice here to help track our odds in our combats. We'll be at 4 to 1 with the armor shift. We can spend a supply point to provide an artillery shift from our headquarters here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's within 5 hexes. We'll spend it from the Fortress Cherbourg points, since they won't be needing them anytime soon, I don't think. And he's able to trace supply back to there. So that'll make it 5 to 1. Oops. And then there's also a troop quality shift that you can get For the attacker, if the best troop quality rating in the attacker's map is better than the best troop quality rating in the defender's stack, then you get a favorable shift 1 column to the right. The defender gains 1 column shift to the left if all participating attacking units in the map have a negative TQ rating. So the defender doesn't get a shift just because he has a higher TQ rating, which I think in this case is, in this instance is the case, because he has a +1. Ours are 0. Let's see, this guy could actually help out now too. Would that help? He'd only give, it's half rounded up, I think. So 2 more would make it 15-4. No, that wouldn't help. So yeah, but so we have a 0, a -1, a 0, and a 0. So it would have to be all of our attacking units are either -1 or -2 in order for the defender to get the shift. So we don't get a TQ shift, but neither does he. Artillery support. What else is there? Where does it talk about? So the defender can't get a shift when he's attacked for artillery, but it can come into play if he ends up trying to do a determined defense, which we'll see how that works when the time comes. I was trying to look. There's the halving. Yeah, you have individual units and round fractions up. Yeah, so he would have been a 2. 3 halved rounded up is 2. Oh, you know what? We forgot about his. We're completely off here. We forgot about his defender combat bonus. He's actually a 7. So maybe we do need this guy in here. So the DCB, or the defender combat bonus, can't be higher than the strength value of the defenders, but he's a 4 and the bocage provides a 3, so he's going to be a 7. All right, what was this again? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 13. So right now we're 13-7. So yeah, actually we do want this guy to join in, because that'll put us at 15-7. So 2-1 is where we're starting out. And then we get the armor shift and the artillery shift to make it 4-1. And then what I was looking for was the naval shift. Tiger tank shift, naval support, 19.2. That's what I'm looking for. And then air support won't come into play because the Allies don't have their air support. Let's see if their naval support could help out in this situation. It might be the same case where that only helps on a determined defense. Naval support. Each may be used once per game turn as naval support. They must be used to suppress German coastal batteries if playing with this optional rule, which we're not. Oh, by the way, speaking of optional rules, we are going to use the weather optional rule, which is the historical storm date So the only time we're going to have a storm is turns 14 through 16, which is denoted there on the turn track. Any other storm result that gets rolled will be re-rolled. It's just too brutal on the Allies if they get a bunch of storm turns early in the game. All right, so what were we looking at? Naval support. Offensive support provides one shift to the right on the CRT. Defensive support provides a +1 DRM on the determined defense table. Yeah, so that'll only come into play if they try to conduct a determined defense. So I think that's it for our modifiers. So we're at a 4-1. So looking at the CRT here, we're wanting to get at least a 5 or a 6 to avoid having to take, well, actually only a 1 or a 4 would cause us to take a loss. So let's see what we get. We got a 3, which is a DR. So DR is defender must either retreat or conduct a determined defense. If the defender retreats, they become disrupted. The attacker may advance after combat if the defender retreats. All right, so let's see. They'd have to retreat 2 hexes, but that can be reduced to a 1 hex retreat, depending on the type of terrain they retreat into. Let's see. Stops retreat. Bocage, woods, towns, and cities can stop retreats. Also, and IPs and strong points can as well. And also, if you retreat into a hex with a friendly unit, as long as they are equal to or less than your strength, they can stop. So neither one of these would be able to stop it, but they're both bocage, so they could. Now the question is, these guys were full strength, right? So we could retreat to here and stop, which would help help that guy out for sure, because he's all by his lonesome there. Although hopefully these guys are going to be able to bust through and link up with them. The other option is to try to do a determined defense, which, let's take a look at that. So here's the determined defense table. It depends on what kind of terrain you're in. We're in bocage, so it's going to be this other column. And basically, we're going to have to roll a 5 or higher in order to cancel the retreat. And anything but a 7 or higher, once you get your modifiers in, will result in us having to lose a step. So we will get a +1 because of our lead unit's troop quality. I mean, he's the only unit, so obviously he's going to be the lead unit. When you do a determined defense, you have to declare 1 unit in the hex as your lead unit, which will be the one that suffers any step loss if there is one. But then that's also what's used to determine if you get either a TQ or an armor rating bonus or penalty. You can't get both. It's either or. So we would get a +1 from that, and then we could also get a +1 from if we used one of our naval markers for naval support. No, we can't, actually, because that's outside of the bombardment zone, so never mind. And we don't have any HQs on the board yet, nor do we have any supply points, so we can't get an artillery shift, which would also benefit that, or think you can use air support for that as well, but again, we don't have that either. Let me just confirm that. Determined defense. Probably going to be under combat results or retreat and disruption. Determined defense. Defensive support can be naval units or artillery support. And the German player can use artillery support or warfare brigades, noble warfers. So no, air support cannot be used for to help with the determined defense. All right, so we'd get a +1. We have to roll a 6 to avoid taking a loss, and we'd have to get a 4, 5, or 6 to cancel the retreat. But a 5 or a 6 would cause someone in the attackers to lose a step as well. No, I don't think it's worth risking that. I think we're okay backing up a hex there. We're just going to have him retreat back to here, and then the bocage will allow us to only have to retreat 1 hex. Okay, then the attackers can do an advance. And again, it can be 2 hexes in any direction. They don't necessarily have to enter this hex. Yeah, I think what we'll actually do is have these guys advance to here, and they can advance across the flooded hex side because they started adjacent to it, I'm pretty sure. Let me just confirm that. Let's see, advance after combat. Page 16. Advance any direction, terrain, and advance. Bocage, the attacker must stop his advance upon entering a bocage hex unless the bocage is the defender's vacated hex and the advancing unit will exit via a road, or the bocage hex was entered along a road and it will exit. So basically you can only move through bocage via a road. Flooded hexes and hex size. Non-mechanized units must stop their advance upon entering a flooded hex unless the hex is entered and exited along the path of the road. Non-mechanized units may only cross an unbridged flooded hex side during the first hex of their advance. Mechanized units are prohibited from entering a flooded hex or crossing a flooded hex side unless along a road. Well, this is a non-mechanized unit. It's actually, was that a glider unit? So he is allowed to cross there. He just can't go any farther. But he can't anyway because he entered bocage. So that's okay. And then I think so we could, now this is a mechanized unit, so even if he advanced into here, he wouldn't be able to cross there. So I'm thinking we send him down this way, because then we're creating some Zachbons around here. What do we have here? That's 4 stacking points there, so we can't put anybody else in there. Yeah, I'm thinking the rest of these just come down to here. Like that. Maybe start setting up to go after these guys. Which, if we're going to do that, maybe we don't want them to go across here. Maybe we want them to move into here. Yeah, I like that better. Okay. So that's that combat. Like I said, I don't think we want to do this one because that's going to be some pretty poor odds there. We don't want to attack these guys. Just want to keep them hemmed in for now. But we do have the one combat over here that we want to do. On this guy here. Let's see what we've got for that. So he is in, I think that's called mixed terrain. Yeah, mixed, which provides 2 DCB. So that's going to bump him up to a... He's only got 1 step, nice. Oh, so he can't get more than 1, so that's going to make him a 2. 21st Panzer will be our main attack force, which is everybody, so everyone will get to attack at full strength. So we've got 6, 9, 10, 11, 12 against 2. So that's going to start off at 6-1. We do get an armor shift because we have actually 2 units with armor rating. This is, what is that, like a mechanized, or no, that's just an armored battalion, just not silhouetted. I think that's the armor symbol. Armored calves, maybe. Reconnaissance. So that's a reconnaissance unit. But they also have an armor rating. But our best is 3, and they have none. So we get an armor shift. It's going to put us to 7-1, which I think that's the maximum we can get. Yeah, so no reason to add artillery to that. So it's going to be a 7-1 attack. Let's see what we roll. 3 on 7-1 is a D1. So defender loses a step. And that's all they have. So, or no, that'll put them down to cadre. Right? Or no, that's not a 3-step unit, right? Because that's only a battalion. So yeah, that's just eliminated. So they go to the eliminated pile. I don't see one on board, so I'll just keep them off to the side here. Oh, one thing I did forget over here, which when I flipped that scattered marker over reminded me, these guys that retreated are disrupted. All right. So that allows us to make a 2 hex advance. And remember, we are allowed to move from Zoc to Zoc if we enter the defender's hex. So we could go here to here. Same with these guys, they could go here to here. Or if we didn't want to do that, we could like send them off this way if we wanted to, or send them into the swamp over here. So let's see. I think I'm actually okay with just doing that. Maybe that and this. Yeah, we'll go with that. I mean, I guess the nice thing about getting up into here, maybe we should do that, is that then forms a Zoc bind here where these guys are cut off. I think that would put them out of supply then. Maybe we do this actually. What if we send these two up there and then send this one over to here? Put some pressure here with 9 attack factors. They're now cut off. Yeah, I think we'll do that. Alrighty. Yeah, I think that's going to complete the German turn 1. So when we continue, we'll figure out what the Allies are going to do about all of this. Before we get to the Allied player turn, there is still, after the German combat phase is the German reserve movement phase. So any of those units that we placed in reserve could potentially move now, but there's not really anywhere I want them to go. Now, that's different than when before we did the combat. I mean, mainly that's going to be for if you're expecting to be able to like punch a hole somewhere during the combat phase to allow other movements to, or other units to then move in and exploit that. But like I said, I really just put that on there because I could, but didn't really have any plans for it. So yeah, you would do your reserve movement phase and then your reserve combat phase. So German units in reserve could conduct combat. And then we go to the German recovery phase, remove all replacement and disruption markers from German units, remove all reserve units from German units adjacent to an enemy unit, which is going to be all of the ones we did. These will come off. I think the other one's under here. Yeah. And then the German supply phase, check the supply status of all German units and roll for isolation attrition of affected German units. And then remove German IPs that are alone in a hex. So if you created an approved position and then abandon it, it's going to get removed. I'll just double check here real quick on the supply rules. I'm pretty sure all of my German units are fine there. So the German supply sources are any map edge entry hex or any friendly controlled Cherbourg city hex. So all of these little colored triangles around the edge of the board are the German entry hexes. So any along the southern or eastern map edge there, or any friendly controlled Cherbourg city hex. So that's these 3 hexes, I believe. So as long as they can all trace back to, the only one that might be an issue would be this guy, I guess. Let's check him. But yeah, all of these can get, freely to back to a map edge. This one may be cut off, actually, now that I look at it, because this guy is forming a Zoc bond. Since he didn't get scattered, he's able to form a Zoc bond. I think that guy may be out of supply. Let's check the tracing rules here. So you have to be able to trace a line of supply, which is a path of contiguous hexes from a unit to a supply source. It can be up to 5 hexes in length to a road, and then unlimited length along the road via contiguous roads. You got to be able to be within 5 hexes of a road, and the path cannot cross an all-sea or impassable hex. It cannot enter an enemy-occupied hex. It cannot enter 2 consecutive vacant hexes in an EZOC. So as long as it only has to go through single ones, it's fine. But can never cross or enter an enemy Zoc bond. And the road portion of the path cannot enter an enemy-controlled town hex, city hex, or a vacant hex in an enemy Zoc. That's interesting. So that's kind of contradictory to this, but only applies to the road portion. So when you're tracing your 5 hexes to a road, they can go through vacant hexes in an EZOC as long as it doesn't have to go through 2. But once you hit your road, then you can't go through a vacant hex in an enemy EZOC at all. And unit adjustment, if a unit or stat cannot trace, it receives an out of supply marker. If it was already marked out of supply, then you flip it to the red side. And if it had an out of supply marker when you get to the supply phase, but now can trace a line of supply, you remove the marker. All right, so this one's definitely going to be, this post unit up here is definitely out of supply. Get him one. But all these others, yeah, I mean, they're all either on a road or can trace. So like in this example, this is in an enemy's, I mean, he's got other ways to get to it, obviously, but he can go through this hex and then to this hex, which gets him to a road, which then goes out. So all those guys are all fine. These strong points, maybe not this one. Because he would have to go through, well, this one, yeah, he can go here, which is in an EZOC, but then this hex is not, so then he's fine. This one is fine. Fine, okay, yeah, so those guys are all okay. These are obviously fine. The only one that's questionable would be here, but this goes enemy EZOC, but then not EZOC, and then he's on a road, so he's good. Or enemy ZOC. enemy EZOC is redundant. Yeah, so everybody else is fine. It's just that one unit there that's trapped against the coast by that airborne unit. Okay, but then let's check for the allies. We're only checking Germans right now, so that doesn't matter. But when we get to the allies, they have to trace to an open beach hex or a friendly controlled Mulberry Harbor hex. And an open beach hex is defined as 21.1. A beach is open if an Allied engineer unit is in one of its hexes, or hex in the case of Utah Sword Beach. Yeah, so they're all going to be landing engineer units on their first turn. They're in the follow-up wave there. So basically all of these beaches are going to serve as the supply sources for the Allied units. But yeah, this guy, unless he's able to maybe defeat this unit here, he's going to be in supply trouble because he won't be able to get to a beach. Well, unless the other possibility is it would have to be a road that goes there, though. So I was going to say he could potentially trace out this way and then around, and then to a beach if we were able to create some kind of opening over here. But yeah, that could be problematic because I don't know if there's road. Yeah, I guess potentially he could get one. Oh, no, because he'd have to go, or no, here he could. One, that's in an EZOC, but that's not. So he could get to this road, and then if he could somehow trace from here without going through an enemy ZOC. Oh, I forgot to move this guy up. What happened? Let's do that now. So he would have gone 1, 2, 3 up to there. Although now potentially that could possibly open something up down here. But yeah, if he could get around somehow, and then, if we created an opening somewhere that he could get to one of these beaches. But I don't know. We'll have to wait and see what happens on the Allied turn. But we will get to that next. All right, so a few things we need to be aware of when landing these follow-on units. They're treated as reinforcements, which means all of the restrictions that apply to reinforcements are in effect. So they have to land in an open beach hex or a mulberry. We don't have mulberries yet. During the movement phase, and they're under the following restrictions. They must use tactical movement. I haven't talked about that yet, but basically tactical movement allows you to move 1 or 2 hexes regardless of movement point costs. So basically you're always able to move at least 2 hexes if, other than, the normal restrictions apply, like if you enter an EZOC, you have to stop, or if you enter a flooded hex, you have to stop, things like that. But so they're limited to using tactical movement, and the hex that they land in, so for example here at Utah would be this hex, that counts as the first hex of movement. So basically 1, and then they could either go here or here. Also, if they attack, their combat strength is halved, and they can only conduct a limited advance after combat, which means they can only enter the vacated hex. And that's it. Can't move any farther. If a reinforcement ends its move next to an enemy unit, place a regroup marker on it as a reminder of its half strength and limited advance. So that's these. And they mention on the back, half attack, limited advance. A little something on the back of that one. Just scraping it off. Let's see what else. And then those markers will get removed during the recovery phase. No more than 4 reinforcement points per turn may be brought in through each beach. That doesn't apply to the follow-on units, though. And they won't any of the follow-on units that aren't able to land on turn 1 here. They won't count against that 4 RP per turn restriction. That'll be for future turns as we're bringing in reinforcements. Okay, so with that in mind, let's see what we want to do here at Utah. We definitely want to get the engineers onto the beach. Notice they have 0 movement, so they just land and then they stay there. Basically, they can't move. But they're the ones making this a supply source in effect. We also want to get the 7th Corps headquarters onto there. And we will not have them move an additional hex either, because we want them available to, well, we don't have any points, but so I guess theoretically we could move them further in. But we'll just leave them there for the time being. They can reach pretty much anything that we might want to attack. And we'll have the next turn to move them if we need to. Another hex. Now, one thing too about the headquarters units and engineer units do not count against the stacking limit. So those are both free stacking units. So that's going to leave us with our the glider regiment from the 101st. Which is landing as part of with the follow-on units, and this other regiment from the 4th Infantry Division, and this tank unit. So I guess theoretically all of these could, because that's only 4 stacking points, so all that could just land there, but we probably want some of it to go in a little deeper, I would think. We're going to want to try to dislodge this unit here for sure. Probably want to, I think we're okay up there. Wondering if we want to move that cadre unit out of there to make room for somebody else. Remember, any of these will be attacking at half strength when they do come in. So let's do... basically get to here or here. I think we want to move this tank unit over to here. Let's move these guys into here. Let's move this guy back to here. That way we can bring these two guys. He's not going to be half strength, but these two will be. So we'll put them like that with the regroup marker. And we'll have this guy move into here. Now, technically, he is adjacent to an enemy unit, but there's a prohibited boundary there, impassable hex side, so he can't attack that way anyway, so I'm not going to bother putting a regroup marker on him. Yeah, so let's do that there. Do we want to move any of this stuff around? I think we want to try to keep a presence on this side of the river, so I think maybe we might want to reinforce there. What are the limitations on disrupted units? Retreat and disruption, 15. Disruption in the recovery phase. Okay, here we go. Any unit that retreats become disrupted. Headquarters units that are forced to retreat or flip to the remove side and become disrupted. Okay, so movement. They must use tactical movement. Combat. They may not attack or be the lead unit in a determined defense. They may not begin construction of an improved position, though they can complete one. Disrupted headquarters and warfare brigades may not provide artillery shifts or defensive support, and they may not receive replacements. They retain their full defense strength, troop quality, ZOC, and ability to form ZOC bonds. They may enter an EZOC, and other units may enter or pass through friendly disrupted units without becoming disrupted. And then they'll come off during the recovery phase. So what I'm thinking is, let's get, because this was our full strength guy, right? Let's get him back up over here on this side of the river. And hopefully we can, if we can knock this guy out of there, we can push up into there to help that guy out. All right. So unfortunately, since both of these are scattered, they're not forming a ZOC bond here, so he will be able to retreat through there. But if we can get a, yeah, he's a one-stepper. If we can get a D1 result on him, they won't have that option. All right, I think that's it for movement over there. With probable attack. Let's go ahead and mark it with a die for now, just so we know to come back to it. Come on, can't get this bag open. All right, so we'll just mark that there for now. We'll figure out the odds here in a little bit. All right, over here, these guys are all boxed in, so we're not going to be able to bring anything in here. Let's check the stacking here. So that's 2, yeah. That's fully stacked. That's fully stacked. What we can do is bring in the headquarters and the engineers. So let's put the engineers here. And we'll put the headquarters here. Okay, so that's all we can do there. And we're probably looking at trying to do some attacks there. So let's put dice on these. All right, over here, got a little bit more freedom, it looks like. So gold is in the same situation there. These are both fully stacked, I believe. Yep. And so we can't bring on the follow-on units, but we can bring in the engineers and the headquarters. I'll just put them like this. Those guys will have to wait. Juno, we can bring in the reinforcements. And we can, in fact, push in a little farther if we want to. But I'm thinking we're probably going to want to try to take this thing out. These others we can probably just bypass and cut off from supply and kind of let them die on the vine. And over here we're going to want to do some combats as well. Here probably, and here. So we may just kind of like to prevent them from being able to box us in more here, so I think I'll bring this guy out to here, this stack. Push those up to there. Bring these guys in here. We can bring quite a bit here then if we need to. Oh, right. Well, we got the engine. No, I guess not. These are the engineers in the core headquarters. So let's, so it'll probably just be that guy there. Yep, I think that's fine. All right, and then over here, this is as far as they can go because that puts them in their Zoc. So we're probably only going to be able to get some of this in. Let's see what all we got here. Two brigades, a couple more tank units. Engineers will go there for sure. And it looks like we'll be able to bring these guys and one tank battalion, but the other one will have to wait. All right. Actually, you know what? Do out of supply units still, can they form a ZOC bond? Let's see. Where's the supply stuff? Supply and isolation. Out of supply penalties. Combat has its combat strength halved when attacking. Must use tactical movement and may not be placed in reserve. Unit cannot begin building an IP but can complete one. Unit must be in supply to receive a replacement. The presence or absence of an OOS marker has no effect on replacement. So the fact that they have an out of supply marker just means they were out of supply at the last supply check. But at the time you're going to give them replacements, it's possible that they could be in supply. Out of supply units retain their full defense strength, ZOC effects, yeah. So they can still form ZOC bonds. So you can't move this guy this way. We could potentially pull this guy back if we wanted to, but I don't know that we want to do that either, because that would kind of leave this guy out to dry. So right now this is preventing them from coming across here. Yeah, I think we'll just try to hold out there and hope that these guys can bust through and get down to us here. This is going to be a tough nut to crack, though. It's got 8 plus, is it 2 from the mixed, I think, so that's a 10 stack. We've only got 9. We're not even, or no, sorry, 9. Yeah, 12. So we're starting at 1 to 1. We do have armor shift, though, and we can throw some naval at it, so. Or no, we can't get armor shift against a strong point, though, I don't think. Yeah, we'll have to see on that. Might just focus on getting this one out first to allow these guys to move up into here. Then we can pile up on those guys next turn. Of course, they could potentially be reinforced with that. All right, well, we'll see what happens there. This is a maybe combat. We'll put one on it just so we can check it again. I don't think we want to do any other movement there. So we go next to, we don't have anyone to place in reserve, I don't think. Although, no, because they move 2 hexes. They use tactical movement basically, so they can't. Yeah, I don't think we have anybody to put in reserve. Yeah, so then we do our combats. So let's look again over here. So it looks like, let's figure out the odds of all 3 of these U.S. combats, because we're going to want to figure out which 2 we want to use our naval support on. So here we've got, so this guy can't attack because he's scattered, and neither can this one. But we've got, looks like mostly 4th Infantry. So if we want to get the TQ shift, no, we got too many 4th Infantry in here to do that. Although these guys are halved anyway. They can attack. So we could make the 101st the MAF, which would be that and this tank unit that's stacked with them. So that would be 7 at full strength. And then 3 more makes 10. 3 more makes excuse me, 13. That would be 2 more, so 15. 3 more, 18. Yeah, so we're at our max anyway there doing that. So we might as well make the 101st the MAF, because that way we get the TQ shift from them, plus an armor shift. So we're at 18. They're at 2, and they get another 2 from the terrain. So they're at 4. So 18 to 4. 4 times 5, no, 4 times 4, 16. So yeah, so they're 4 to 1 to start with. And then we'll get the armor shift, which makes it 5 to 1, and the TQ shift. Let me just confirm that. If the best TQ rating in the attacker's MAF is better than the best TQ rating in the defender's stack, you gain a favorable shift to 1 column to the right. Yeah, so 4 to 1, TQ shift makes it 5 to 1, armor shift makes it 6 to 1. So I don't think we'll need the naval support here. Over here, we're looking at 29th will be the MAF. So we got 4, 8, 9 against 3, 5. So 9 to 5, but they get 2 from the train. So 9 to 7 is going to be a 1 to 1. No armor shift because they got the red there. That's better than our gray. And no troop quality, right? Nope, they're zeros. 0. So it's a 1 to 1. If we use the naval, it makes it a 2 to 1. We got to do it though, because we gotta try to bust out of here. So we'll use 1 naval shift for that. Over here, got 2, and 2 is 4, plus another 2 from the train is 6. We've got 7, 11, 12, but no armor shift. So 12 to 6 is 2 to 1, and with this makes it 3 to 1. All right, let's go ahead and resolve these, and then we'll move over to the British sector. All right, so we got a 6 to 1 here. 1. That's a DR. And anything but a 1 would have eliminated him. All right, so DR, he could attempt a determined defense. He's in other, but anything other than a 7 is going to result in them losing their step. I mean, it would keep us to a limited advance, but I mean, we're basically only going to have a limited advance anyway if he retreats, because we could fill into here, I guess, and or it would let us reinforce this more too. So he'd get a -1 for his troop quality in the determined defense. They could contribute some artillery to offset that, but still, you're looking at guaranteed losing the unit. Only on a 6 would they cause us a step loss. Only on a 5 or 6 would they cancel the retreat. I'm thinking it's probably not worth it. So they'll retreat to here. They can stop the retreat at 1 hex because it's bocage. They become disrupted. And then we can advance. I think we want to get... So these ones can only do a limited advance, so they can only move into that hex. This guy, though, can do a 2 hex advance, so he can go into there. And since we entered the defender's hex, even though it's in an EZOC, we're allowed to move further. These guys only go to here. And then these... Go to there, maybe? Yeah. Yeah, we'll do that. Okay. Not as successful as I had hoped there. Doesn't bode well for these. All right, so here we've got a 2-to-1. Six, that's better. So a 6 on the 2-to-1 is an A1D1. So with an A1D1, each side loses 1 step. The attacker's step must come from the MAF. Surviving defenders either retreat or conduct a determined defense. If they retreat, they become disrupted. Attacker may advance if the defender retreats. Yeah, and then the other thing about the step loss is if you got either a troop quality shift or an armor shift, then the loss has to come from a unit that provided a shift. We did not in this case. So let's see. I think we will probably pick Both of these have already been reduced. Probably, we got more tanks coming in. Probably just take it on this. He will, so that's a two-stepper. This is only a one-step. The thing is, I don't think these can ever receive replacements, the flak units. But at the same time, I don't know that we can afford to just leave a flak unit by itself there. So I think we'll take the hit on that. And then we can attempt to determine defense or retreat 2 hexes. I think we retreat 2 hexes to this town. You know what? Did we ever... We never did this attack for the Germans, did we? No. Why not? Well, it's too late now, I guess. Not sure it would have been that great. Well, it would have been a 1-to-1 attack. And we couldn't have supported it with artillery. Still might have been worth a shot, though. Although we'd stood a pretty good chance of just eliminating ourselves. All right, well, we'll stick with that. All right, so we get to advance now, which is good because we need to open up some more room for extra boys coming in. So we could go here, but that leaves, they're not projecting a Zok. Well, we can't form a Zok bond with them anyway. But at least if we go here, we got a Zok bond with that. If we go here, we risk them coming in and causing problems here with our beachhead. So we'll just advance to there. All right. Then we have this 3-to-1 attack over here. Another 6 would be great. Oh, look at that. That is a D1. So they lose a step. They must either retreat or conduct a German defense. All right, this guy becomes disrupted that retreated earlier. These guys, I should say. They're both disrupted. Yeah, so they have to lose a step. These are each only 1-step units. I think in this case we lose this guy. And he'll retreat to here, become disrupted. All right, that gives us a little more breathing room. Let's go. I think we push them up to here. I don't know if the headquarters gets to advance with us or not. I don't know that we want them to. All right, well, we don't have a Zoc bond on this side, but anything that moves into here has to stop, so I think we're okay there. All right. Well, that went a lot better than I was expecting. All right, now we got to figure out what to do with these combats over here. This one is 2, 4, and then 2 from the train. Right, mixed is 2, so they got 6. We have, so the 50th will be the MAF with this unit attached. So everyone's at full strength, 6, 9, 12 to 6. So it's starting off at 2 to 1. Let's just mark that for now. I'll figure out where who we want these guys to support. All right, let's figure out this one next, actually, because it's easy. We'll just have the one. Oh, this is a maybe. So they're 6 and 2 is 8, plus another 2 is 10. We have, these guys are from different divisions. So if we make these guys the MAF, they're at 5, 8. These guys are halved, so 2, so that's 10. So it's 10 to 10, 1 to 1. Could make it 2 to 1 with the shift. Here, yeah, I think we just ignore this for the time being. So all of this can come after this. We might be at max. There's another one of those SS. You know who we want the main attack force to be. If we make it the 50th, that would be 9. These guys are attached to them, so that'd be 10. And everybody else is halved. So 2 more from that is 12. 2 from that is 14. 16. 18. Yeah, so we're maxed out with that. Doesn't give us troop quality. These guys would, but then we're looking at having a whole bunch more, so I think we just go with that. We're not going to get an armor shift because of their anti-tank. So it's 18 against 5, 6, 7. 18 to 7. It's going to be 2 to 1. So we could forego this and give both of these guys the shifts. Or we could give them a shift and then only be able to shift one of these. If we do this attack, we definitely want to use one of the shifts on that. Oh, the other thing to consider is not attacking there, but attacking here. That would open up to be able to let us get some more in here too. Yeah, I think we do that actually. Now these guys all just came. Oh, I forgot to put regroup markers on these guys. Shoot. Let's see who all was in the follow-up wave. Out. I'm pretty sure this whole stack was in the follow-up. What is that, the 27th? This is Sword Beach. Yeah, that, what is that, 1 ERY. And those guys and those guys. Yeah, all of these were in the follow-up, so they get a regroup marker. So they'll be at half. These guys were not. They were in the initial landing. Then over here we had, let's see, this is Juno. So the follow-up is the only thing in the follow-up was the SFR, which is this guy. Yeah. So he gets a regroup marker. But he was being halved anyway. So I think we're still good there. So that's still 2-1. But let's see what we got over here. So we make these guys. All right, we got to decide. So we make this guy with this unit attached as the main attack force. So that's 8. The one underneath gets halved. So that's going to be 10. And all these guys are halved. So 12, 15, 18. All right, well, we're still at max. So 18-2. And I don't believe strong points get a DCB. Let's see. No DCB for silhouetted units, strong points, or units with a strategic movement. Yeah, so a silhouetted unit by itself also doesn't gain the defensive combat bonus. I need to remember that. Yeah, strong points by themselves don't qualify for that. So it's 18-2, so it's going to be a 7-1 attack. So we definitely don't need the shift there. So let's go ahead and roll that one. 7-1. We get a 2, which is a D1. So that eliminates the strong point. And then we can do an advance. These guys are restricted to a limited advance, so they can only go to there. But these guys can go wherever they want, including going down here to try to help link them back in. Oh, and we had well, we don't get an armor shift against a strong point, but we did have a TQ shift, but it didn't matter. We were already over 7-1. Hmm. I think that's fine because we have a Zoc bond here, so nothing can get through that. Yeah, let's do that. All right. Now we're going to use these two to boost each of these attacks. So these actually become 3-1. All right, let's do this one first. 4 on a 3-1 is a DR. So the defender has to either conduct a retreat or conduct a determined defense. If they retreat, they become disrupted. Yeah, I don't know. I think we'd probably, I don't know if this can be the lead unit. We'd probably be sacrificing him. I think we'll just retreat. That's a town, so it can stop our 2-hex retreat. So these guys can only advance into that hex. The others can make an advance in any direction. Just trying to think, assuming these guys are able to push them back, it'd probably be good to have some stuff in there. Both from the same division. Oops. Okay, and then so these guys just go for this guy. It's just him, right? Yeah, he goes into there. And then these guys can move into here because that's fully stacked. I think we just push up into here. Ooh. Oh no, we're good. Yeah, Zoc bond. Okay. Yeah, I think that works. All right. And then we have a 3-1 attack here. It's just these guys, though, not these ones just moved there. So it's this stack attacking here. Yeah, 6, 9, 12. Yeah, that's right. 12 against 6 was the original odds. Oh, we do have an armor shift in this case, though, that I forgot about. I think 2, 4, 6 for the defenders. We're at 6, 9, 12. Yeah, so 2 to 1, but then we get the armor shift to make it 3 to 1. The naval shift makes it 4 to 1. So this is a 4 to 1 attack. And we got a 2. Sorry, I forgot to move the camera. 2 on the 4 to 1 is a DR. They could attempt a determined defense here. They probably risk losing one of these guys, but so otherwise they're having to back up to here, which is going to leave a little bit. I mean, not actually a gap, but no Zachbond there. Hey, you know what? We haven't tried one yet. Let's try a determined defense. So we'll make, I think these are both the same, right? Yeah, we'll just make the guy on top the lead unit. So he's in mixed terrain, which is going to be the other column. Plus or minus the lead unit's TQ, so that's 0. And we can get defensive support. Can we, though? Do we have anything in range? Well, he's not within 5 hexes of con. Just outside. So it's just going to be a straight roll. He needs a 5 or a 6 to cancel the retreat. But either way, he's losing a step. If he does. I mean, I think that's okay. Worst case is the retreat's not canceled and they still have to retreat. Okay, so here we go. Determined defense. 4, just missed it. So they do have to retreat. And, well, they don't necessarily have to both retreat to the same hex, I guess. So we could go 1, 2, and 1, 2. I think we have to avoid going through an enemy zone of control in the retreat if possible, I believe. Let's see, retreat direction. May determine the path per the guidelines above. Okay, so if possible, avoid entering a vacant hex in an EZOC. If not possible, the first hex of the retreat may enter a vacant hex in an EZOC as long as the retreating unit does not cross or enter an enemy Zachbond. All subsequent hexes of the retreat must be clear of enemy Zocs. So if we didn't have a choice, we could retreat through here and then to here, assuming this was not in an enemy zone of control. But because we do have a choice, we got to go this way, this way. I guess because I was thinking, you know, if we could go that might be better, but we'll just go here. And then they become disrupted. All right. So they opened that up a little bit. I think that's all we want to do for our attacks. So next we go to the, there's no reserve movement, no reserve combat, so we go to the recovery phase where we remove all replacement and disruption markers from allied units. Remove all reserve markers from units that are adjacent to an enemy unit. And then we also remove all regroup markers and scattered markers. So regroup, scattered. We don't have anybody disrupted. I don't. Maybe we do. Yeah, I think we had some over here that had to retreat. So this disrupted marker comes off, as well as this scattered marker, and this scattered marker. This regroup, this scattered, this scattered, and then over here, we can remove this scattered marker, this regroup marker, and this regroup marker. Okay, I think that's everything. All right. Then next is the supply phase. So we have to check the supply status. And I think the only one that's kind of concern, these are all good. They can all trace back to here. Actually, this guy is out of supply because he's got him hemmed in there with a Zoc bond. Have to see if we can get over there and get him back in supply next turn, I think. Then I'm not even sure. I don't even think, even if we had moved a unit here, I don't think that's, I think you still can't trace across that Zoc bond. I'm not 100% sure of that. Okay, the other one, so these are all good. They can trace back to Gold or Juno without issue. These guys can trace to Sword without issue. Remember, these don't project Zocs. This one does, but he's only having to go through one hex in a what about these guys though? Let me look at those rules again. Supply rules. All right, so cannot enter two consecutive vacant hexes in an EZOC. Okay, so this is not a vacant hex. So because this unit is there, that allows him to trace through there, even though it's in an EZOC. And then this one is, but it's only one, and then he's there within 5 hexes. He doesn't have to. He doesn't even have to use a road portion. Yeah, so I think they're both okay. This guy though is out of supply because he can't trace across that Zoc bond unless, like I said, we can find a road path. You know, he can come out this way to this road, but then he can come out this way to this road, and then if he can trace this road somewhere that doesn't go through an EZOC, then he's golden, but I don't think he can, because once you get up into here, yeah, you got blocked there, blocked there. Coming over this way and trying to get back up. He's blocked there. Can't come back this way. And then, yeah, he's not getting up into that either because they've got Zachbons surrounding that whole beach area. So he's going to be out of supply. Okay. And then we go to the end phase. Conduct any desired airborne withdrawals. 22.2. I don't think we're to that point yet, but we can. Airborne division or airborne withdrawal occurs in the end phase if all on-map units of an airborne division are currently in supply and not adjacent to an enemy. Oh, right, that's not voluntary. That's basically if we get to the point where there's no enemies next to all units of one of our airborne divisions and they're in supply, then maybe it is optional, may be withdrawn back to England. So really that's only the case if you're getting close to your cadre limit to cause an auto victory for the other side. That's where that would come into play. So yeah, I think that's going to conclude turn one. I guess speaking of auto victory, we should probably mention what we're trying to accomplish here. So I'm going to attempt to do the full 22 turn campaign here. So what we're looking at for victory conditions, I guess first of all, the auto victory conditions are if we can get 3 or more in supply units on the east or south map edge at the end of a German player turn and all of our beaches are open and all 4 city hexes of Khan are allied controlled, then that's an auto victory. If we can control all 4 of these hexes and have 3 or more in supply units on either this map edge or this map edge at the end of the German player turn, so they have to survive a turn there, then we get an auto victory. Germans can get an auto victory if they close 3 or more allied beaches or mulberry hexes, including sword but not point to hawk. So point to hawk doesn't count toward that. Or have at least 7 U.S. 3-step units currently eliminated or reduced to cadre level. So once we get basically 5 that are like this, where they're either reduced to cadre level or eliminated, then the Germans automatically win. Or the same thing, or sorry, that's 7. At least 7 of these, or at least 5 Commonwealth 3-step units eliminated or reduced to cadre level. And the Canadians do not count toward that. So that's how the Germans can get an auto victory. Beyond that, assuming it goes the length, or goes the distance, as they say, then we're looking at an Allied victory if we score 10 victory points by the end of the game. Victory points are each eligible town hex, 1 victory point for each eligible town hex, and 2 victory points for each eligible city hex that I control, or that the Allies control. I guess I'm both. And that they can trace a line of supply to. Only town and city hexes that are on the German side of the June 27th historical front line or within the Cherbourg perimeter count for victory points. So there's this red dotted line that starts, actually goes here. It starts over here, Comes down along here. This is the historical progress line up around Caen, so they didn't get into Caen, and then up to here. That's the historical June 27th progress line. So we have to get 10 victory points worth of towns and or cities that are beyond that. So basically we have to do better than history. Either there or within the Cherbourg perimeter. So remember we saw that gray dashed line there around the city of Cherbourg. So towns and cities in there count as well. The German player scores 1 victory point for each town hex and 2 victory points for each city hex on the Allied side of the June 27th historical front line that is in German control, and the German player can trace a line of supply to a map edge entry hex. Cherbourg cannot be used as a supply source for this purpose. So I'm guessing that, deduct. The German player scores no VPs for town and city hex he controls on his side of the June 27th line. So we deduct the German victory points from the Allied victory points to obtain the total Allied victory points. So if they manage to keep control of any towns or cities inside of that, or to the north of that historical line, then those will count against us. And then the German victory condition is just to prevent the Allied player from achieving his victory conditions. So we're looking to get, if we can get all 4 hexes in Caen, that would be 8 points right there. We'd only need 1 more city or 1 or 2 more towns south of that line. But looks like it's going to be a pretty tough row to hoe there. All right. Well, I think that's me rambling on enough here. That's going to wrap things up for turn 1 of Normandy 44. Hope you're enjoying it. I'm having a good time getting into this game. I've watched a couple of playthroughs of it to kind of prepare, so I kind of at least have a general idea of what I'm trying to do. But we'll see how things go from here. But thanks for watching. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.